Okay, I've been inspired. I'm doing it. I'm going to reread the entire Warrior Cats series. Well, at least the first arc. These are literally the exact books that I had in my childhood when I read this series at least 3 times. And I did read through the entirety of the original saga, I guess up until The Last Hope or whatever, if that's what the book is called. I did dabble in some of the spin-off series, but I'm talking about like from Firestar's inception to his death. That's like what I consider to be the main series. The only reason why I'm doing this is because I saw a TikTok where someone was looking at the colored maps of the original forest, and I was like, that original arc was so good. If you don't know anything about these books, it's basically about clans of cats who fight against each other but have real developed lives. They die, they have little kits, they struggle with starvation and illness, and as a kid, it felt very real in a way that a lot of other books were not real. Like, I genuinely cried multiple times about fictional cats dying, and I did actually also, in like 3rd grade, force all of my friends to roleplay as warrior cats. And when I think about that now, it's a little embarrassing, but these were genuinely good, and so I'm curious, as an adult, would I still enjoy them? I did reread them at some point in high school, so I guess I was almost an adult by the point that I was rereading them, but it's been a number of years, so I decided to give it a try. So we shall start with Into the Wild. Let's see how this goes. I remember most of the plot, I feel like, pretty well of the entire first arc, so I'm excited.
I feel so damn lucky. It's all because of you.
The like index of characters at the beginning, this allegiances section, is so nostalgic for me because I literally used to study these before starting every book, to the point where I literally found a couple errors that the authors had made of like, wait, that apprentice died a couple books ago. They definitely made some mistakes at different points, but I was obsessed. And it's interesting because I remember that the later series got so bloated in terms of the cast of characters between the different clans. So seeing how short the list is in the original book, I'm like, oh my god, it was so much easier to keep track of everyone, and that led to better character development, I think. I am on page 22, the part where Greypaw meets Rusty for the first time, and Lionheart says the famous words, "You cannot live with a paw in each world." I just remember that as a kid. I feel like that was kind of the pinnacle line of the entire first book, because Rusty, aka Firepaw, has to decide whether he wants to fully join the clans or not, and he's kind of always fighting for that acceptance. And so I think Lionheart kind of saw that from the beginning, and that message carries throughout the whole book. I could just not remember. I'm on page 42 of the first book. This is still the same night. I'm gonna see how far I can get. It's only like 270 pages. Maybe I'm just not remembering, but who are Greypaw's parents? I feel like later in the series, parental like lineage is way more important than it feels like it is in the first few books of this series, from what I remember. Like, we just kind of walk into the clan, and I don't think we know who Sandpaw's parents are, Greypaw's parents, Dustpaw's parents, like characters who become really important later, and characters who have like important mentors. I don't think it's ever clearly established who their parents are. I'm curious, maybe I just missed it when I read them the first few times, so I'll see. Alright, it is the next morning. I got to page 140 of this book after consuming a little bit too much of a certain unidentified substance. So I do have some kind of meta thoughts that I wrote down that I didn't want to forget. And they are actually real thoughts, but in the time they felt kind of meta. First of all, I completely forgot about Yellowfang. I don't know how. I feel like I remember the plot of the first arc pretty well, but when Yellowfang showed up, I was like, oh yeah, I completely forgot about her. So that was a pleasant surprise because we love just the grumpy old cat. She's so funny. So my first meta thought was that the simplicity of the characterization and the character development is somehow refreshing and more relatable than it is in adult books. Like, I don't understand why I connect more with the characters in a freaking cat book than I do with like any adult book that I've read in the last 5 to 10 years. Like, obviously part of it is nostalgia, and having read the entire series, you know like where the characters end up. So seeing them again as young when you've seen them old and everywhere in between, it adds like a depth and a complexity that the authors probably did not intend when they started writing a middle grade series. I think part of this is because the cats have a shorter lifespan than humans, and so you're following them for their entire lives. And so that makes the portrayal of like death and life and that cycle more intimate because you're viewing it for the entirety of their life cycle. And so that is like way more pronounced than in any adult book. I don't know any adult book that you follow a character basically from like birth to death. And that is why I think I always get like a strange sort of deep sadness when I read these books. Like I said, part of it is because I know exactly what happens to the characters, and so especially if you know a character's gonna die in like a sad way, then it's sad to see them earlier in their life. But yeah, for being only on page 140 of the first book and the reread of the first arc, though, there was some pretty intense thoughts. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish this book and see if I have anything else to tell you before we continue. I forgot that Lionheart died in the first book. No. It's funny, he only is really in the books for like 200 pages, but I feel like Lionheart is like such an iconic character and his death is so sad even though he's like barely in the books. I guess he was just like pretty influential on Firepaw and Greypaw becoming like good warriors. I have finished book 1. It only took me like less than 24 hours to read because it's pretty short, and captured my attention more than a lot of books that I've read in the last couple months. So that's just, it is great, but it's like, why is the Warrior Cat series more entertaining to me than half the books I've read in the last year? We'll just never know. I kind of forgot how much action is packed into this 200 and something page book. So much is covered here. By the end, Ravenpaw has gone off to live with Barley to protect him from Tigerclaw's wrath. Lionheart is dead. Redtail is dead. Yellowfang becomes the new medicine cat because Spotted Leaf is dead. Broken Star gets driven out of ShadowClan, and Firepaw and Greypaw become Fireheart and Greystripe. For some reason, I don't remember them becoming warriors in the first book. I thought that took place in the second book, and I thought Firepaw taking Ravenpaw to Barley also happened in the second book.
I feel so damn lucky. It's all because.
So now I'm starting book 2, Fire and Ice. Also, these original covers are so much better than the new covers. There's something about the titles in the first series that is just so enticing to me and always has been. Not really Into the Wild, but then we have Fire and Ice, Forest of Secrets, Rising Storm, A Dangerous Path. It just evokes a very fantasy-y excitement in me, I feel like. I believe the second book is when Fireheart goes and rescues WindClan and brings them back. I'm pretty sure that's like the main plot point of this book, but let's find out. I'm a little bit more than halfway through Fire and Ice. I would say I'm not enjoying this one quite as much as Into the Wild. I feel like Into the Wild had a lot of action. I counted there's like 5 or 6 main characters who die in Into the Wild, and I honestly did not. I mean, if you would ask me, do a lot of cats die in the Warrior Cat series, I would be like, yes, obviously. But then, like, when I'm rereading it as an adult, I'm like, holy shit, there's a lot of cats dying. Like, it's like Game of Thrones level character mass kill off constantly. I mean, obviously the like main characters very rarely die, but it's like still they're secondary and tertiary characters are just gone like that. So in this book, Fireheart and Graystripe go to rescue Wind Clan because they were driven out in the previous book by Broken Star and Shadow Clan, and they have decided to hide basically under a highway in like a tunnel system. And it's funny reading this now also as an adult, because when they describe human development kind of through the lens of the cats, now I'm trying to kind of picture like, how complex is that highway system actually? Because the road that goes through the clan territory is kind of, I think, is just like a normal 2-lane road, and they talk about how it gets less busy at night, so it makes me think that it's like a commuter road maybe, that this is like the exurbs away from a city, but then where they go to find Wind Clan is closer to a city, because they talk about how one of the roads is like spiraling around like a big highway on-ramp. So I just found that to be very interesting. This is also the book where Graystripe meets Silverstream, his future love from River Clan, and I bookmarked this one little section because I was like, Graystripe, you scoundrel. When Silverstream pulls him out of the river, she says, "You idiot, what are you doing in my territory?" And Graystripe says, "Drowning," and Silverstripe kind of laughs and says, "Can't you drown yourself in your own territory?" And Graystripe says, "Ah, but who would rescue me there?" And it's like, okay, the like OG forbidden love in the warrior cats. I see how it is. Graystripe has some riz. That's all I'm gonna say. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and finish this book. I'm on page 200 now. This is after poor Cinderpaw went to the Thunder Path and got hit by the car and is now paralyzed. I remember her character always annoyed me so much in this first arc because she was just so high energy and was the kind of character that doesn't listen to anyone, and it's like frustrating because you're like, oh my god, please just listen to the older people, please. But Brackenpaw ends up being one of my favorite characters ever. He gives me big like White Storm energy, where he's just so loyal and dependable and just like steady throughout all of the books. So it's nice that he was introduced here. And now Graystripe and Fireheart are fighting because Graystripe keeps sneaking off to see Silverstream, and Fireheart is mad that Graystripe is not paying any attention to anything going on in the clan, which is completely reasonable because now Tigerclaw has noticed that Graystripe's going missing and Graystripe is just being stupid. I think it's funny that one of the things that Longtail and Dustpaw are making fun of Cloudkit for is that he has a white coat, but so do White Storm and Frostfur. They're saying like, oh, he like the prey will see him coming from a mile away, but it's like clearly that's not true for either of the two other white-furred warriors in your clan. You idiots. Also, I am becoming hyper fixated on these books, which is bad because now it's going to be my personality trait for the next month.
It's all because of you.
Showered, and I have finished book 2, Fire and Ice. This book culminates in Shadow Clan and River Clan banding together to attack Wind Clan and Thunder Clan going to save them. Honestly, it was kind of an anticlimactic ending compared to the first book because no one really dies that's important at the end of the battle. The only thing that really happens is that Tigerclaw and Darkstripe maybe guess that Graystripe is seeing Silverstream because of what happened during the battle, but probably my favorite part of this book is that we get to see Sandstorm and Fireheart grow closer, and obviously eventually they are a couple throughout the rest of the series, and I just love Sandstorm kind of defrosting her Ice Queen personality a little bit and really falling in love with Fireheart. It's very sweet and they are perfect for each other. So, alright, it's only 5 minutes later. I decided to start Forest of Secrets. I feel like this video is so boring because I'm not changing my filming location at all because I'm reading them so quickly that I've literally read 2 books in like 2.5 days. So now I'm on the 3rd on day 3 or whatever, I don't know. I remember this book being one of my favorite when I read it a long time ago, partly because the cover is so pretty, very mysterious. It's called Forest of Secrets and it just really makes you feel like the series is like becoming important and all the characterization and the build-up is kind of culminating in this book. Not that it's the last book, of course, because there's still 3 more, but it feels like a lot of secrets that were pent up are kind of explored more in this book. I am almost done with the 3rd book, Forest of Secrets, and I have some thoughts so far. First of all, I seem to remember Cinderpaw being way more annoying in the first series than she actually is. I must have been confusing her with like another cat who was forced to become a medicine cat and then wasn't happy about it because I thought I remembered like her injury forcing her to be a medicine cat and her being like really grumpy and unhappy about it, but she's actually like fine with it, so that kind of surprised me. I must have been confusing her with someone else. And I forgot just how annoying Cloud Kit is. Literally one of my least favorite characters for a long time until he finally grows up and gets over himself. He's so just like bratty in this book, and the amount of times that Fireheart tells him to do something and he just doesn't makes me not excited for the next book when Fireheart is training Cloudpaw to be an actual warrior, because then I have to see even more of him. So I don't really remember when he gets less annoying, but right now he's so annoying. I feel like this is also when the book starts to get darker because we see way more of the effects of Tiger Claw's betrayal. There's more of the storyline with Broken Star / Broken Tail getting blinded by Yellowfang and being kept prisoner in the ThunderClan camp. The deaths are also way more significant. I just passed like the 3/4 of the way mark where Silverstream starts giving birth to her kits early along the river and dies from basically like hemorrhaging, and then Graystripe has these 2 little like undeveloped kits that he has to figure out a way to take care of. I almost cried when Silverstream died. You know, it is what it is. And I do remember that Graystripe does take the kits to go live with RiverClan, but I don't necessarily remember what the impetus of that is, because right now the kits are with Goldenflower in ThunderClan, and I feel like I've talked about this earlier in the video, but how when the book starts, there's no emphasis on familiar relationships at all with the cats. Like, we have no idea who Graystripe's parents are, we have no idea who Sandpaw's parents are, we have no idea who Dustpaw's parents are at the beginning, we don't know who's siblings, but then I feel like as the first series is developing, they're putting more of an emphasis on like who is related to who, since we have the whole storyline here with Blue Star's kits having been raised in RiverClan and Fireheart taking literally forever to figure that out. Like, the amount of clues that just went over this man's head, I'm like, oh my god, I know that this is a middle grade book, but come on, Fireheart. It's so obvious. Like, he literally sees Blue Star and Mistyfoot running next to each other, and it's like, wow, they look like exactly the same cat. I wonder why that could be. I also know that there are kits in RiverClan who were born to a ThunderClan mother, and these 2 cats happen to look exactly the same. How strange. But anyway, back to the familiar relationship things. And so that kind of threw me off from the beginning of the series, because I feel like I remember later, like, you always know who's related to who, and like the mother-father dynamic, brother-sister dynamic has like a lot of influence on the characters in the series. So it just still bothers me that we have no idea, like at the beginning, who is related to who. Also, it's kind of implied, but maybe even more than implied, that Goldenflower is having Tiger Claw's kids. I'm pretty sure that is true because I think she's Bramble-Paw's mother in the future. But like I said, I feel like it's just like she's such a nice person and then she's like mated to Tiger Claw, so it's like, why? Willowtail just announced that she's having White Storm's kits, And I just feel like sometimes the cats like really care about who they're mating with and sometimes they don't, which I guess is like a reflection of our world too. But I don't know, it throws me off. But yeah, those are my thoughts so far. Almost done. I'm going to go finish it. Bye. Ooh, I just got to the part where Tiger Claw brought all of the rogues to attack the camp and tried to kill Blue Star, but failed and got driven out. It's very interesting just to think that if they had made a different decision, like if they had decided to kill Tiger Claw or even keep him imprisoned for a certain amount of time, that all of the events of the rest of the arc just never would have happened because the main villain would be dead. Obviously, then there would be no story, but it's still interesting to think about. And Fireheart is now deputy. Yes. Unfortunately, that also means that we start Blue Star's decline, like her mental decline, where she kind of just goes a little crazy for the next few books. She was already starting to lose a little bit from the fact that her kits were given up and like she's been seeing them more, but with Tiger Claw's betrayal, she makes some questionable decisions in the next few books. But I just want to talk about how much I love White Storm. I mean, the fact that this warrior has like years on Fireheart and has been amazing and loyal and would probably make an excellent leader as well and is not mad that Fireheart gets chosen over him. Chef's kiss. I finished. I forgot that Graystripe left at the end of this book. It's so sad. Poor Fireheart feels so lonely. I hate not having Graystripe and Fireheart together. They're like the dynamic duo. You can't separate them. But it leaves room for Sandstorm to sweep in. So I'm okay with it. My girl Sandstorm. It is time for book 4, Rising Storm. I'm already on page 27, and I'm starting to remember that I'm pretty sure this is my least favorite book in the series, just because I feel like it's a little bit slower while Fireheart is kind of adjusting to life as his deputy, and without Graystripe there's just less shenanigans for them to get into, so I kind of remember it being like more of a low-key book. And I do know that at the end of this book is, I think, when Tiger Claw becomes the leader of Shadow Clan, but we got to get all the way to the end of this book for that to happen. So I'm pretty sure this is when Cloudpaw gets really annoying and starts going to eat food at the kitty pet place. That hasn't happened yet, so I'm pretty sure that's in this book. And this is when Fireheart in the first 20 pages is introduced to Bramblekit for the first time, who looks exactly like his dad Tiger Claw, and that makes Fireheart a little uncomfortable, but obviously Brambleclaw ends up being a very nice character. Brambleclaw probably is one of my favorite characters just because he's pretty much like if you took Fireheart and Tiger Claw and melded them into a character, you would get Brambleclaw. He's like loyal and strong and smart like Fireheart, but he has a little bit of like a dark edge from Tiger Claw, and melding those two together makes for a very interesting character. So I'm excited for him to start to get older. He's only a kid right now, so he's not really doing anything. Oh, also popping in for one more quick comment. I don't know if I'm just stupid and missed it in the last book, but Cinderpaw is suddenly Cinderpelt, even though I'm almost positive at the last book she was Cinderpaw, and they never have any discussion about the fact that like she became a full medicine cat and got her full name. Like, I feel like that was just never brought up unless it was one sentence that I just missed, which I kind of...
It's all because it's all because of
Okay, it is a few days later. I definitely slowed down my pace a little bit through the 4th book. I am on page 196, and I was correct. This is by far the worst book out of the 6. I haven't read the last 2 yet in this reread, but I already know. It's just very slow and kind of meandering. I feel like the other books, Fireheart is taking a lot of action to pursue some specific cat or some specific problem, In this one, he's just kind of wandering around, waiting for things to happen to him. The only exciting part of this book is him finally realizing that maybe he's in love with Sandstorm, although even that is pretty slow, and the scenes of them together are kind of few and far between. I just finally read something kind of exciting. It's where Running Wind dies because he was attacked by Tiger Claw and the rogues that he's with, so I guess this is kind of the first time that we see the start of the Blood Clan drama that is to come. But especially now that Graystripe is in another clan and Fireheart is busy with all of his deputy duties, it's just pretty low action. So I'll see what the last 100 pages bring, but definitely the worst one so far. Alright, it is later the same day. I'm almost done. I'm on page 285. And Yellowfang just died. I forgot that there was like a huge fire that ravaged the entire ThunderClan part of the forest at the end of this book, and Yellowfang goes back with Fireheart to save a bunch of cats, and they don't find her until like the next day. And she tells Fireheart that even though he wasn't her son, he was as good as. And I definitely got some tears in my eyes. I feel like when I read these as a kid, I didn't really like Yellowfang that much, but I also don't remember her being alive for this many books. For some reason, I thought that she died like earlier in the books, like book 3 or something, so it was a pleasant surprise this time around to have her around for so long and for her to grow on me, because now I love her grumpiness and I'm sad she's gone. I have finished, and the last sentence of the book is, the new leader of Shadow Clan was Tigerstar. The last part of this book was pretty exciting because of the fire and obviously the gathering, where you know that Tiger Claw is going to become the new leader of Shadow Clan, and Fireheart begins to assume some leader duties. As someone who absolutely adores Bluestar's Prophecy, the special edition, it is pretty sad to see how far Bluestar falls from like her peak, but she gets so annoying by the time that she ends up dying in the next book that it's not that I'm not sad to see her go, it's just that it's a long time of her being an incompetent leader and kind of forcing all of her responsibilities onto Fireheart, which is what ended up making this book slower than all of the others because he's too busy to do anything exciting. But yes, another one done. On to the next. I will be reading the Bluestar's Prophecy special edition again because I remember sobbing when I read that the first time, but I'm not sure if that's going to be in this video or not because I was also thinking about reading the next arc where they end up traveling to find the new territories and then moving to the new territories. I was thinking about reading that arc too and making a video on it, but depends on whether people enjoyed this one. We'll see. Alright, I have started on book 5, A Dangerous Path. This is when the series starts getting pretty dark, pretty explosive. I forgot that this is the book with the dogs. Basically, there's some evil two-legged dog pack that gets out and starts ravaging the forest. And I remember when I read this when I was, I don't know, 8 or 9, and just hearing the thoughts and the sounds of the dogs just yelling, pack, pack, kill, kill. I feel like that haunted my dreams at night. Like I literally feel like I woke up in the middle of the night just hearing pack, pack, kill, kill. So I feel like that's pretty dark for like a kid's book. I don't know. Maybe not. This book was also completely falling apart. Thankfully, I have my book binding supplies, so I was able to use my like archival glue to glue it back together, and I think it mostly worked, so hopefully I don't break it even more by reading about pack, pack, kill, kill.
I feel so damn lucky. It's all because it's all because of you.
Alright, I'm about 3/4 of the way through book 5, A Dangerous Path. There's one major thing that I'm really confused about. So basically in this book, there's this dog pack that is stalking the clan cats, right? Like they've been finding prey, feathers, blood, all that stuff throughout their territory. And I've always wondered, you know, like, how big is the territory really? But my confusion is that in the prologue, you kind of get an insight into the dog pack's thoughts. And basically, they want to go hunt and kill cats. So that's their goal. Probably like 2 months of time has passed in this book between when the dog pack escaped and when they now encounter Swiftpaw and Brightpaw, who are mad that they didn't become warriors with Cloudtail. So how have the cats never ran into the dogs until now? I mean, I know how, because it was not convenient to the plot until now. But still, how have they never run into each other? Like, somehow enemy cats come into the territory and they run into like a patrol almost instantly. Fireheart knows that these dogs are here, and so he's like increased the number of patrols. And yet the dogs have been avoiding the cat patrols when all they want to do is kill the cats. The dogs aren't smart enough to be like, well, we should wait until the cats are like lesser in number before we attack. So that is totally what I'm not buying this entire book. I feel like it would have made more sense if like either the timeline between when the dogs were released and when they had killed the cats is shorter, or they had like at least killed 1 or 2 cats in between that, and that like satiated their need a little bit, and then they like came back. Even if it was like a rogue or something on ThunderClan's territory, that they found the body of the dead rogue and it had been killed by dogs, I don't know. So I just got to the part where they find Swiftpaw's body, and Brightpaw unfortunately got her face like absolutely decimated. And now I'm remembering that I think maybe she becomes kind of like a medicine cat apprentice for a while, and she's mad about it, and that's who I got confused with Cinderpelt being mad about being a medicine cat apprentice. I don't totally remember. But also Bluestar is still absolutely losing her mind in this book, which is very valid. But also poor Fireheart is just trying his best, and Sandstorm does not need to be mad at him. But also Fireheart just needs to get off of his ass and ask Sandstorm to be his mate. I feel like that would solve all of their tension, because she's mostly mad that he's like not picking up on all of her signals and including her in things. Even if they disagree, she would still be happier if they were like mates, you know? My man Fireheart's got enough to worry about. He is single-handedly carrying this clan on his back throughout like the entire last 2 books, so I am once again back in this filming location. I feel like this video is gonna be so boring because I'm just constantly sitting in the exact same place. But there's just very few places in my house that have good natural lighting, and this happens to be one of them, even though I have to sit on the floor. My camera is literally on my piano, and I didn't make the bed any time in any of these clips. Alas, I've been too busy reading the Warrior books. I have finished Book of 5, A Dangerous Path, and first I want to say, I guess my entire last clip about how I was annoyed that it didn't really make sense that the dogs had been in the forest for months without actually killing the cats makes a little bit more sense, because you find out that Tigerstar was actually hiding the dogs in the cave and feeding them so that they wouldn't be tempted to go hunt the cats until he led the trail to the hollow where he was going to have the dogs go like attack ThunderClan at their camp. It still doesn't really make much sense to me that Tigerstar was able to control these dogs so well. Like, first of all, he can't communicate with them, so how did he even get them in the cave if he was the one that got them in the cave? Or how did he know that they were in the cave? And how has he just been wandering around ThunderClan territory for like moons without any cat noticing? I mean, maybe Darkstripe knew, but like, I just still find that whole situation a little bit unbelievable. Tigerstar is not like an all-powerful being. He still smells like any other cat, so I just don't see how he could be creeping around for that long, and why the dogs would be content to stay in the cave even if they're getting fed. Like, they're probably very scrunched in there. Alas, Fireheart figures out this plan of Tigerstar's, and they decide to do a 180 on it by moving the rabbit trail toward the gorge so that they're gonna run and lead the dogs off of the side of the gorge. And Fireheart realizes that as the last cat, he is probably going to have to jump off into the gorge, but then Tigerstar attacks him, trying to get the dogs to kill him, and then Bluestar comes and saves him and sacrifices herself and reunites with her kits in RiverClan, Mistyfoot and Stonefur, and they forgive her. And now Fireheart is Firestar. And I might have been saying Firestar the entire time because now I'm on the 6th book. So even with my confusion over the existence of the dog pack in the woods for so long, this was still a very entertaining book, and Cloudtail finally becomes less annoying, which is really good. And I do love Firestar as a leader. Which leads us into book 6. I'm like sad reading this book, partly because I know it's the last one in the like original arc, and partly because it's the only book where we get Firestar's perspective as a leader, and I feel like it's so short. I almost wish that Bluestar had died like halfway through book 5, and then we'd gotten the last half of the book being Firestar leading with the dog pack. Like, it was good that Bluestar was able to redeem herself in that way with her death, but it's just still feels like one book is not enough to be in Firestar's head as a leader, especially because so much stuff happens in this book. I'm already on page 86, and it's only a 300-page book. And we haven't even been introduced to Scourge yet. We don't have any idea about Blood Clan. I'm just like, oh my gosh, the whole Leopard Star and forming of Lion Clan, like none of that has happened yet. I cannot believe that that is going to happen in the next 200 pages. It just seems like not possible, even though I know it's possible because I've read them before, but it still doesn't feel possible. And I've always loved the part where Firestar goes to the Moonstone and gets his 9 lives from all of the cats that have helped him along the way. But this is something that has always bothered me, even as a kid. Spotted Leaf. Why is Firestar so obsessed with Spotted Leaf? Like, there's literally this line, now he had no reason to fear that he was being unfaithful to Spotted Leaf in his love for Sandstorm. First of all, Spotted Leaf died either in like book 1 or early in book 2, but I think it was book 1. And she was a medicine cat, so it's not like her and Firestar could have been in love anyway. And I get that obviously as an apprentice, it was a little bit of like unrequited crush, like love that he had for Spotted Leaf. But to continue that on into your leaderdom where you're literally like, oh, I can be in love with Sandstorm. I don't have to be in love with Spotted Leaf anymore. It was like, were you really in love with Spotted Leaf? That was just a crush. And first of all, she would never have been able to reciprocate. And even if she did, it would have been kind of weird because you were literally an apprentice and she was like a full-grown cat. And I've just never liked Firestar's whole obsession with Spotted Leaf as like a romantic figure. It's just always been kind of strange. So I'm over that part for sure.
So damn lucky. It's all because it's all because of you.
Alright, I have about 100 pages left of the last book, which is very sad. And so far, they've finally gone over to RiverClan and discovered that Leopard Star and Tiger Star have allied together, and the whole bone pile thing that Firestar saw in a vision when he was receiving his 9 lives, and Graystripe and Ravenpaw and Firestar rescued Mistyfoot and Graystripe's kits from their prison in RiverClan, and unfortunately Stonefur died, one of Bluestar's kits, which is sad, but he was never really a significant character. I feel like Mistyfoot was always the one who was like in most of the scenes. I feel like Stonefur was just kind of like an NPC, honestly. But I can't believe there's only 100 pages left in this book because we still haven't even met Scourge, who's like more so than Tiger Star kind of the big bad, I feel like, and so it's just weird. I don't remember it taking so long to meet Scourge, and that is why I said I don't feel like we get enough of Firestar as a leader to make it a super satisfying last book, because there's only 100 pages left and most of that is probably going to be a battle sequence. So I feel like there's not going to be enough time to like wrap everything up in a satisfying manner. But obviously I already know what happens, but I'm just saying now, reading it for like the 3rd or 4th time, I have pre-sadness to what is going to happen. I just got to the part where Wind Clan got attacked and called for Firestar's aid, and he showed up, and him and Tallstar decided that they are going to form Lion Clan to oppose Tiger Clan. And I'm gonna be honest, I got some chills when Tallstar said, our clans will join together like a lion to fight the tiger who prowls the forest. And it's an echo of the dream that Firestar said. And just, I feel like him and Tallstar being friends anytime that they unite together is just so wholesome, because they really get each other and it's satisfying. Firestar has finally asked Sandstorm into his den. That sounds really weird when I say it like that, but they're just so cute. I have finished the last book, The Darkest Hour. I kind of forgot that Tiger Star actually died before the final battle, because when Wind Clan and Thunder Clan go to meet Tiger Star at the Four Trees to give him their decision about whether they're going to join Tiger Clan or not, Scourge is there with Blood Clan, and Firestar tells Scourge everything that Tiger Star has done, and Scourge just murders Tiger Star and is like, oh, JK, I'm gonna take over the forest now. Meet me back here in 4 days with your decision. Which is just kind of funny because I seem to remember Scourge being like a much bigger character than he actually was in this book. For some reason, I thought he had existed for like 2 whole books, or at least the entirety of this book, but it felt a little bit anticlimactic that he just didn't really have much development, and that he decided, oh, I'll give you 4 days to figure out exactly how to fight me instead of just killing you all now. Like, he's supposed to be, you know, this vicious leader of like a kitty pet gang, basically. And instead of just killing them all there and being done with it, he decided to give them time. I don't know, that part was kind of weird. But the final battle is great because Firestar loses a life fighting against Scourge, and he gets to see all of the cats who have given him lives, and they give him advice and, you know, encouragement, and he comes back with like kind of renewed power and energy and ends up being able to kill Scourge. And White Storm dies, which is probably the saddest death in all of the books, because I think anytime a character dies where they know they're going to die ahead of time, it's for some reason even more sad. Like, before they left for the battle, White Storm had a conversation with Firestar and basically said, hey, it was great being your deputy. I've never had the ambition that Tiger Star or you have, and I'm just grateful that I got to live like a noble, long life. And he's basically like, yeah, I know I'm gonna not make it out of this battle. So then when he actually does die, and tells Firestar to make Greystripe his deputy, it's very sad. I feel like White Storm is such an underrated character, and I feel like Brackenfur kind of takes White Storm's place in terms of just steadfast, noble, reliable, but he's just not the same as White Storm. No cat is the same as White Storm. So the last sentence of the book is, the rising sun broke over the trees and flooded the clearing with light and warmth, and it seemed to Firestar that no dawn had ever been brighter. And now I am empty. I have finished rereading the first arc of Warriors. It was definitely a hyperfixation / still is a hyperfixation, because I was in a meeting for work the other day and was also looking at the Warrior Cats wiki while I was in this meeting, and I was like, oh, I want to read the next arc so badly. But that's what makes it even more sad to be done with this arc, is that I know that the next few arcs don't hit the same. Like, they're still good, but just nothing is like as emotional and powerful as the original series, and so you just know that you're gonna enjoy it, but not as much. And also, I have to finish it's Monday, and I have a book club meeting on Thursday, and I have like 300 pages left of the book club book that I have to read because I've been too distracted reading Warriors. So I kind of have to buckle down and finish that before I can think about reading anything else. I have Blue Star's Prophecy sitting on my desk right now, and I so desperately want to start that because I just want more books that are set in the original territories, because they're just so much better than the Lake territories, and I can't because I have to finish that book club book. So alas, if you enjoyed this video, maybe I will do another vlog on any of the special editions or on the next arc that starts with Midnight. Let me know what you think. I think I've already given most of my thoughts on this series throughout, so I'm not gonna give like a long conclusion, but just basically I feel like they are still very valid books to read even as an adult, and while some stuff is cheesy, I also feel like the character development and the long lives of the cats, where you see them from birth to death, and I feel like that allows the authors to play more with the characters than with books where the characters, you only see them for like a couple months of their life. So I think that's why they continue to be even more emotional, honestly, with every year that I read them as an adult. So yeah, this was really fun. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoy the Warrior Cats. Thanks. Bye.